The massive space station hung in the void like a metallic moon. Vexhi Prime stretched for hundreds of kilometers, its surface covered in towers that reached toward the stars. This was the heart of the Kelthran Dominion, the center of an empire that had ruled the outer spiral for 3,000 years. Admiral Zethkol stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. The ship was enormous, larger than most cities. Its hull stretched for 20 kilometers, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Around him, the Dominion fleet floated in perfect formation. 50,000 warships filled the space around the station, each one a masterpiece of Kelthran engineering. The Admiral's four eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he watched the smaller vessels move through the fleet. His people had conquered 47 different species. Each time it had been the same story. The inferior races would resist, their primitive weapons scratching uselessly against Dominion shields. Then came the surrender, followed by complete subjugation. Today would bring news of another conquest. "Admiral," came a voice from behind him. Zethkol turned to see Commander Vexithai approaching. The younger officer's scales showed the pale green of nervousness. "The alien delegation has arrived." Zethkol's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Humans, they call themselves." "Yes, sir. Their ship is requesting permission to dock." The Admiral gestured toward the main display. On the screen, a small vessel appeared. It was pathetically tiny compared to the Dominion ships around it. The human craft looked crude, made of simple metal plates welded together. It had none of the elegant curves and energy conduits that marked truly advanced technology. "Look at that thing," Zethkol said. "It's barely larger than one of our shuttles. These humans must be even more primitive than the last species we encountered." The human ship docked with one of the smaller bays. Zethkol made his way to the meeting chamber, where diplomatic first contacts always took place. The room was designed to intimidate. The ceiling soared 30 meters high, supported by pillars that gleamed with embedded crystals. Holographic displays showed the vastness of the Dominion fleet, ensuring that visiting species understood their position. The human delegation entered the chamber. Zethkol studied them with interest. They were bipedal like many species but seemed fragile. Their skin was soft and pink without scales or natural armor. They wore simple uniforms and carried no visible weapons. The leader, a female with short gray hair, stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Sarah Mitchell of the United Earth Alliance," she said through a translation device. "We come seeking peaceful contact and trade relations." Zethkol's mandibles clicked again. It was always the same opening. Every species started with talk of peace and trade. They never understood that they had nothing the Dominion wanted except their submission. "I am Admiral Zethkol, Supreme Commander of the Outer Spiral Fleet," he replied. "Your species is new to us. Tell me about your military capabilities." The human ambassador seemed surprised by the direct question. "Our military exists for defense only. We have a single fleet protecting our home system and colonies. We prefer diplomatic solutions to conflicts." "A single fleet?" Zethkol's four eyes widened. Even the most backward species usually had multiple military forces. "How many ships?" "Approximately 200 vessels of various classes," Mitchell replied. The Admiral had to suppress his laughter. 200 ships. The Dominion had more vessels in a single patrol group. He activated his personal communicator and sent a message to his staff. Within moments, tactical displays appeared around the chamber, showing the true scope of Dominion power. "Observe," Zethkol said. The displays showed star maps marked with Dominion territory. It covered nearly a quarter of the galaxy. "We control 15,000 star systems. Our fleets number in the hundreds of thousands. Each of our dreadnoughts carries enough firepower to reduce a planet to asteroids." Ambassador Mitchell looked at the displays without showing fear. That puzzled Zethkol. Most species became terrified when they saw the true scope of what they faced. "Impressive," she said. "But surely there's room in the galaxy for peaceful coexistence. We have technologies that might interest you. Our medical advances, our agricultural techniques." "You have nothing we need," Zethkol interrupted. "Your species will submit to Dominion rule, or you will be eliminated. There are no other options." "And if we refuse?" Zethkol gestured to the displays again. Images of conquered worlds appeared, showing the ruins of cities and the broken hulks of defeated fleets. 47 species have refused us. All learned the folly of resistance. The human ambassador was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised him. What if our single fleet proved more capable than you expect? This time Zethkol did laugh, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. Your single fleet? Against the might of the Dominion? Impossible. One fleet can't defeat us. We'll see, Mitchell replied calmly. The Admiral's amusement faded. There was something in the human's voice, a confidence that seemed out of place. But it didn't matter. He had heard bold words from dozens of species before their inevitable defeat. You will have 30 standard cycles to prepare your surrender, he announced. Gather your political leaders. Compile lists of your military assets and population centers. When we arrive at your worlds, you will submit completely, or we will take them by force. 30 days, Mitchell repeated. That should be enough time. Enough time for what? To prepare, she said simply. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Ambassador Mitchell made an unexpected request. Would it be possible to tour one of your ships? We're curious about your technology. Zethkol almost refused, but then reconsidered. It might be useful for the humans to see firsthand how outmatched they were. He authorized a limited tour of the Eternal Conquest, with heavy security escorts. The humans moved through the ship's corridors, asking technical questions and examining the Dominion systems with apparent fascination. Their escorts were amused by the primitive visitors who seemed awed by technology they could never hope to understand. What the Kalthran guards didn't notice was the small devices hidden in the humans' equipment. Devices that recorded everything they saw, mapped the ship's systems, and transmitted the data back to their vessel through quantum-encrypted channels. After the tour, the human delegation returned to their ship. Zethkol watched from the observation deck as the small vessel detached from the station and moved away into hyperspace. The Admiral felt satisfaction as he imagined the humans returning to their world, with news of the unstoppable force heading their way. Shall I begin mobilizing the Conquest fleet? Commander Vexthai asked. A full deployment won't be necessary, Zethkol replied. These humans seem even weaker than most. Take 5,000 ships from the Third Fleet. That should be more than sufficient to handle 200 primitive vessels. Yes, sir. And after we conquer their worlds? Standard procedure. Useful populations will be enslaved. The rest will be eliminated to make room for Kalthran colonies. Zethkol turned away from the display. Schedule the departure for 25 cycles from now. I want to arrive early before they have time to prepare any desperate last-minute defenses. As the Admiral walked away, the displays continued to show the depths of space where the human ship had disappeared. Somewhere out there, a species was about to learn the same lesson that 47 others had learned before them. The Kalthran Dominion was inevitable. Resistance was futile, or so they believed. In the depths of space, the human vessel, UES Defiance, raced toward Earth. In its databanks were complete scans of Dominion technology, security protocols, and fleet compositions. The diplomatic mission had been a success far beyond what the Kalthrans could imagine. Ambassador Mitchell stood in the ship's communication center, preparing a transmission to Earth Command. The message would take weeks to arrive, but it would give humanity time to implement the plans that had been in development for years. The Dominion thought they were dealing with a primitive species with a single fleet. They had no idea what was coming. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the massive holographic display in Earth Command's war room. The images from Ambassador Mitchell's mission played across the screen, showing the incredible size of the Kalthran fleet. Each Dominion dreadnought was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their weapons could turn planets into rubble. Around the circular table sat the leaders of Earth's military and government. President Williams looked pale as he studied the tactical reports. General Martinez, head of the Space Marines, shook his head slowly. Director Thompson from Intelligence sat quietly, reviewing the classified data their people had gathered. My God, President Williams said finally. 50,000 ships? How do we fight something like that? We don't, Admiral Chen replied. Not the way they expect us to fight. She touched a control panel and the display changed. Now it showed Earth's current fleet, 200 ships of various sizes. Compared to the Dominion Armada, they looked pathetic. This is what they saw, Chen continued. This is what they expect to fight when they arrive. But Admiral Zethkol made a critical mistake when he gave us 30 days to prepare. What kind of mistake? General Martinez asked. Chen smiled grimly. He assumed we would spend those 30 days trying to build bigger ships to match theirs. That's what every other species probably did. But we're not going to build bigger ships. We're going to build more ships. Many more. The display changed again, showing technical specifications for new vessel designs. These ships were smaller than current Earth vessels, but they were fast and heavily armed for their size. The Swarm Protocol, Chen announced. Instead of trying to match their firepower with individual ships, we're going to overwhelm them with numbers and coordination. Director Thompson leaned forward. How many ships are we talking about? 10,000, Chen said simply. The room fell silent. Finally, President Williams found his voice. 10,000 ships? In 30 days? That's impossible. Not if we use the new automated manufacturing systems, Chen replied. We've been developing them for years, but never had a reason to deploy them at full capacity. Each orbital factory can produce one ship every 6 hours once it's running at maximum efficiency. She touched the controls again, and the display showed Earth's orbital infrastructure. Hidden among the civilian stations were dozens of massive construction facilities. We've been preparing for this day since first contact protocols were established, Chen explained. Every deep space survey that found signs of advanced civilizations told us the same thing. The galaxy is dangerous. Peaceful species don't expand across thousands of star systems unless they've conquered everyone in their path. General Martinez studied the ship designs. These new vessels are smaller than our current frigates. What kind of weapons do they carry? Phase torpedoes, Chen answered. Experimental weapons that exist partially in subspace. They can bypass most known shield technologies by materializing inside the target ship. And crew? The president asked. Minimal. Each ship requires only 5 crew members thanks to advanced AI assistance. Most of our population will be working in the factories or supporting the war effort from Earth. Chen activated another display showing a tactical simulation. Small ships swarmed around larger vessels like insects attacking giants. The Dominion fights like most military organizations, she continued. Large ships with independent command structures. Each vessel operates alone or in small groups. But our ships will operate as a single organism. Every captain will know instantly what every other captain is thinking and planning. How? Director Thompson asked. Quantum entanglement communicators. Instantaneous communication across any distance. While they're trying to coordinate 40 or 50 massive ships, we'll be coordinating thousands of smaller vessels that think and act as one mind. The simulation continued, showing human ships surrounding Dominion vessels and attacking from all directions simultaneously. The larger ships couldn't target fast-moving enemies that coordinated their movements perfectly. But there's another element to our strategy, Chen said, something they'll never see coming. She gestured to Director Thompson, who stood and activated his own display. It showed computer code and network diagrams. During the diplomatic mission, our people planted viruses in their computer systems, Thompson explained. The Kalethrons were so arrogant they barely scanned our equipment. They certainly didn't expect us to have quantum-level encryption technology. What do the viruses do? President Williams asked. They're dormant for now. But when activated during combat, they'll cause critical system failures throughout their fleet. Weapons will misfire, shields will fluctuate, and communications will be disrupted. General Martinez looked skeptical. All of this depends on them bringing only a small force. What if they arrive with their entire fleet? Admiral Chen shook her head. They won't. Our psychological profiles of Admiral Zethkol show he's extremely arrogant. He genuinely believes we're primitive. He'll bring enough ships to ensure victory, but not so many that he looks like he was afraid of us. How can you be sure? Because he's done this 47 times before, Chen replied. The intelligence data shows his pattern. He always brings approximately 10 times the number of ships the enemy has, just to be certain. Against our 200 ships, he'll probably bring 2,000. Maybe 5,000 at most. President Williams still looked worried. Even 5,000 ships is 25 times what we currently have. But we won't have 200 ships when they arrive, Chen reminded him. We'll have 10,000, hidden throughout the solar system. She activated a new display showing the solar system. Asteroids, moons, and space debris were highlighted in different colors. Stealth technology and holographic camouflage, Chen explained. Most of our fleet will be invisible until we choose to reveal it. The Dominion will think they're fighting 200 primitive vessels until thousands of ships decloak around them. The room was quiet as everyone absorbed the implications. Finally, General Martinez spoke. This is either brilliant or insane. Both, Chen agreed. But it's our only chance. We can't win a conventional war against the Dominion, so we're going to fight an unconventional one. Over the following days, Earth transformed. Every available resource was directed toward ship production. The automated factories worked around the clock, consuming raw materials from asteroid mining operations. Engineering teams worked in shifts to perfect the new ship designs and weapons systems. The phased torpedo program moved into final testing. The weapons were revolutionary, existing partially in normal space and partially in subspace. They could bypass traditional shields and armor by materializing inside enemy ships. The destructive potential was enormous. Quantum entanglement communicators were installed in every new ship. The devices would allow instantaneous coordination across the entire fleet. In battle, human ships would respond to threats and opportunities faster than any enemy could react. Meanwhile, the existing Earth fleet conducted highly visible exercises near Earth orbit. Long-range sensors would show the Dominion exactly what they expected to see: 200 ships preparing for a hopeless last stand. Admiral Chen stood in the command center, watching as the latest production reports came in. 3,000 ships completed. 4,000. 5,000. The automated systems were exceeding their projected output. Admiral, her aide reported, Admiral Zethkol's fleet has been detected leaving Dominion space. Intelligence estimates they'll arrive in 18 days. How many ships? Approximately 5,000 vessels, sir. Including 12 dreadnoughts, Chen nodded. It was exactly what they had predicted. Zethkol's arrogance was working in their favor. Continue production, she ordered. I want 8,000 ships ready when they arrive. The remaining 2,000 can be completed during the battle if necessary. Yes, sir. And the viral weapons? Maintain dormancy until combat begins. I want their systems to fail at the worst possible moment. As the days passed, humanity prepared for the greatest battle in its history. Hidden throughout the solar system, thousands of ships waited in silence. On Earth, factories continued to produce vessels at an unprecedented rate. Everything depended on surprise, coordination, and the hope that human ingenuity could overcome superior firepower. The Dominion was coming, confident in their inevitable victory. Admiral Zethkol believed he was facing a single fleet of primitive ships. He was about to discover just how wrong he was. Admiral Zethkol stood on the bridge of the Eternal Conquest as his fleet moved through hyperspace toward the human home system. Around him, 5,000 Dominion warships traveled in perfect formation. The sight filled him with satisfaction. Even this reduced force was more than enough to crush any resistance the primitive humans might offer. Time to arrival? He asked his navigation officer. 6 hours, Admiral. All ships report ready for combat. Zethkol nodded. The humans had surprised him slightly by refusing the surrender ultimatum, but it didn't matter. Every species fought back initially. The result was always the same. Have there been any changes to human fleet positions? He inquired. Commander Vexthai consulted his tactical displays. Long-range scouts report the same formation as before. Approximately 200 ships positioned in defensive patterns around their homeworld. They appear to be using their largest vessels as a screen for the smaller ones. Predictable, Zethkol said with amusement. They're trying to protect their weaker ships behind their strongest ones. It won't help them. The Admiral had studied the battle records from humanity's diplomatic mission. Their largest ship, the one that had visited Vexhai Prime, was barely 600 meters long. Even their biggest vessels were smaller than Dominion escort craft. The weapon signatures were equally primitive, using simple kinetic projectiles and basic energy beams. Sir, the communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through, Zethkol ordered. The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of a human vessel. A middle-aged man in a simple uniform faced the camera. Behind him, Zethkol could see other humans working at primitive control stations. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth Fleet, the human said. You are entering our territory without permission. Turn back now or face the consequences. Zethkol's mandibles clicked in laughter. I am Admiral Zethkol of the Kael'thran Dominion. Your species was given the opportunity to surrender peacefully. You chose to resist. Now you will face the full might of our forces. We're prepared to defend ourselves, Chen replied calmly. With what? Your handful of primitive ships? Zethkol gestured to his tactical displays. I have brought 5,000 vessels to your system. Each one carries more firepower than your entire fleet combined. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. We'll take our chances, the human admiral said. The transmission ended. Zethkol shook his head in disgust. Why did they always choose the hard way? All ships prepare for combat, he announced. Standard conquest formation. We'll demonstrate the futility of resistance. The Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Immediately, sensors began scanning for human vessels. The results matched their intelligence exactly. 200 ships arranged in defensive positions around the third planet. Target analysis complete, reported the weapons officer. Human vessels are concentrated in 3 main groups. Estimated combat effectiveness, minimal. Zethkol studied the tactical display. The human formation was amateur at best. They had positioned their ships to protect their world, but they had no depth to their defense. Once his forces engaged the outer ring, the inner ships would be trapped and helpless. Begin the advance, he ordered. I want those ships destroyed quickly. This is already taking longer than it should. The massive Dominion fleet moved forward like a slow avalanche. 5,000 ships advancing in perfect order, their weapons charging, their shields at maximum power. It was a sight that had terrified dozens of species across the galaxy. But as they approached the inner system, something odd began appearing on their sensors. Admiral, the sensor officer called out, I'm detecting some unusual readings. What kind of readings? Movement among the asteroids and debris fields. It might be. Oh, that's impossible. Zethkol moved to the sensor station. Explain. Sir, some of these asteroids appear to be moving in non-gravitational patterns, and the spectral analysis is wrong. They're showing metallic compositions where they should be rock and ice. Could they be hidden ships? The officer shook his head. The humans don't have stealth technology. Our intelligence reports were clear about their primitive capabilities. Zethkol frowned. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't identify what. The human fleet was exactly where it was supposed to be, showing the same energy signatures as before. But there was something nagging at the back of his mind. Continue the advance, he decided, but maintain full sensor sweeps. I want to know about anything unusual. As the Dominion fleet moved deeper into the solar system, more strange readings began to appear. What looked like space debris was moving with purpose. Asteroids were changing course in defiance of orbital mechanics. Even some of the system's smaller moons seemed to be drifting from their predicted positions. Sir, the sensor officer reported again, I'm now detecting over 3,000 objects that don't match their expected profiles. 3,000? Zethkol felt his confidence waver slightly. Are they ships? I don't know, sir. The signatures are confusing. They're reading as rock and metal debris, but they're moving like controlled vessels. Commander Vexthai approached the admiral. Should we request additional forces from the home fleet? Zethkol considered it for a moment, then dismissed the idea. No. Even if the humans have somehow hidden additional ships, we still vastly outnumber them. Continue the attack. The Dominion fleet reached the outer edge of the human defensive line. The 200 visible human ships powered up their weapons and began evasive maneuvers. It was exactly what Zethkol expected from a desperate last stand. All ships open fire, he commanded. Thousands of energy beams lanced out from the Dominion vessels. The humans responded with their primitive kinetic weapons and basic lasers. It was pathetic compared to Kael'thran firepower. But then something impossible happened. The space around the Dominion fleet suddenly erupted with new contacts. What had appeared to be asteroids and debris began shedding their camouflage, revealing themselves as warships. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. What is this? Zethkol demanded. Ships. The sensor officer shouted. Thousands of ships decloaking throughout the system. They're surrounding us. The tactical display lit up with new contacts. Human vessels were appearing from every direction, hidden among asteroids, concealed behind moons, disguised as space debris. They weren't just the 200 primitive ships the Dominion had expected. They were a massive fleet that had been waiting in ambush, How many? Zethkol asked, his voice tight with sudden fear. 8,000 ships and counting, sir. They're still decloaking. Admiral Zethkol stared at the display in shock. This wasn't possible. The humans were supposed to be primitive. Their technology was supposed to be centuries behind Dominion standards. How could they have built a fleet this size? How could they have hidden it so effectively? Sir, the communications officer called out. The human admiral is transmitting again. The screen flickered back to Admiral Chen's bridge. But now she was smiling. Admiral Zethkol, she said calmly. Allow me to introduce you to Earth's actual fleet. You said one fleet couldn't defeat you. Let's see if you still believe that. Around the Dominion forces, 8,000 human ships began moving into attack positions. They were smaller than Kael'thran vessels, but they moved with perfect coordination. Every ship seemed to know exactly where every other ship was going. Return fire, Zethkol screamed. All vessels return fire immediately, but as his weapons officers tried to target the human ships, their systems began malfunctioning. Targeting computers crashed, weapon arrays powered down unexpectedly, communications between ships became garbled and unreliable. Sir, his technical officer reported, we're experiencing system failures throughout the fleet. Something is wrong with our computers. Zethkol realized with growing horror that the humans had done more than just hide a massive fleet. They had been planning this ambush for weeks, maybe months. Everything about their diplomatic mission had been designed to make the Dominion underestimate them. The trap was closing, and the Kael'thran Dominion was caught in the middle of it. For the first time in 3,000 years, Admiral Zethkol faced the possibility of defeat. The battle erupted across space like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. 8,000 human ships moved as one organism, their quantum communicators linking every captain's mind into a single coordinated intelligence. While Admiral Zethkol's fleet struggled with system failures and communication breakdowns, humanity struck with precision that seemed impossible. Captain Maria Santos commanded the UES Vanguard, one of hundreds of ships in the first attack wave. Through her neural link, she could feel the presence of every other human captain in the fleet. She knew without looking that Captain Park was moving to flank the Dominion dreadnought on her starboard side, while Captain Rodriguez prepared to target its engine sections from below. Phase torpedoes armed, her weapons officer reported. Fire, Santos ordered. All around the Dominion fleet, human ships launched their experimental weapons simultaneously. The phase torpedoes flickered in and out of normal space, passing through Kael'thran shields as if they didn't exist. Inside the enemy vessels, the weapons materialized and detonated, tearing apart critical systems from within. Admiral Zethkol watched in horror as one of his dreadnoughts simply came apart. The massive ship, which had been designed to withstand anything short of a stellar explosion, broke into pieces as internal explosions ripped through its hull. How are they doing this? He demanded. Our shields should stop any known weapon. Sir, their torpedoes aren't following normal physics, his science officer replied. They're phasing in and out of subspace. Our shields can't block something that isn't entirely in our dimension. Another dreadnought exploded as a coordinated attack from 30 human ships targeted its reactor core. The Kael'thran vessel's return fire scattered wildly as targeting systems malfunctioned. Energy beams that should have vaporized human ships instead fired into empty space. The virus programs are working perfectly, Director Thompson reported from Earth Command. Their weapons can't lock onto our ships. Their communications are breaking down, and their defensive systems are failing at random intervals. Admiral Chen watched the battle through real-time quantum feeds from the fleet. Excellent. Order all squadrons to implement Swarm Pattern Delta. I want those dreadnoughts neutralized first. The human fleet shifted its attack like a living thing. Groups of ships peeled away from larger engagements to converge on damaged Dominion vessels. They attacked like antibodies destroying infections, overwhelming individual targets with coordinated strikes from multiple directions. Captain Santos felt the collective intelligence of the human fleet adjust its strategy. Through the quantum link, she knew that Squadron 7 had found a weakness in the 3rd Dreadnought's armor, that Squadron 12 was preparing to exploit a shield failure on a Kael'thran cruiser, and that Squadron 20 was moving to intercept enemy reinforcements. Target the bridge section, she told her weapons officer. Fire on my mark. Around her, 15 other ships moved into perfect position. Each captain knew exactly when to fire, exactly where to aim, exactly how to coordinate with their squad mates. The Dominion had never faced anything like it. The concentrated phase torpedo barrage struck the Dreadnought's command center. The bridge imploded as weapons materialized inside it, killing Admiral Gexmar and his entire command staff instantly. The massive ship, suddenly leaderless, began to drift as its automated systems struggled to compensate. "Sir," Commander Vexthai shouted over the noise of alarms. "We've lost 3 dreadnoughts and 27 cruisers. Our formation is collapsing." Admiral Zethkol stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His ships were dying faster than he could track. The humans moved with impossible coordination, attacking his vessels like a swarm of insects overwhelming much larger prey. "All ships, fall back to defensive formation," he ordered. "Concentrate fire on the largest human vessels." But his orders were barely getting through. The virus programs the humans had planted were causing chaos throughout the Dominion communication networks. Some ships received conflicting orders. Others received no orders at all. Several vessels actually began firing on their own allies as their targeting systems were corrupted. Captain Park brought his ship alongside a damaged Kael'thran cruiser. Through the quantum link, he coordinated with 5 other captains for a synchronized attack. They struck simultaneously from different angles, their phase torpedoes tearing the enemy vessel apart from within. The beauty of the human strategy was becoming clear. While each individual human ship was smaller and less powerful than its Kael'thran opponents, they fought as a collective intelligence. Every ship knew what every other ship was doing. They could coordinate attacks, share targeting data, and respond to threats faster than any enemy could react. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "I'm receiving a priority transmission from Commander Kethval." "Put him through," Zethkol ordered. The screen showed the bridge of one of his remaining dreadnoughts. Commander Kethval's scales were pale with fear. "Sir, we need immediate reinforcements. These humans are using some kind of hive mind coordination. Our ships can't compete with their tactical speed." "How many human ships have we destroyed?" Zethkol asked. "Fewer than 50, sir. Meanwhile, they've eliminated over half our fleet." Zethkol felt his confidence crumble completely. In less than 2 hours of fighting, his supposedly invincible armada had been reduced to a scattered collection of damaged ships. The humans were winning. "Send a transmission to Dominion Command," he ordered. "Emergency reinforcement request. Send everything we have." But even as he gave the order, Zethkol knew it might be too late. The humans had planned this perfectly. They had lured him into a trap with their fake weakness, surrounded him with a hidden fleet, and now they were destroying his forces with weapons and tactics he couldn't counter. Another explosion rocked the Eternal Conquest, as human ships concentrated their fire on his flagship. The massive vessel's shields flickered and failed as phase torpedoes materialized inside critical systems. "Sir," his damage control officer reported, "we've lost main power. Secondary systems are failing. We need to evacuate." Admiral Zethkol looked around his dying ship and realized the truth that no Kael'thran had faced in 3,000 years. They were losing. The mighty Dominion fleet was being destroyed by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Through the quantum communication network, Admiral Chen felt the collective satisfaction of 8,000 human captains. The battle was going exactly according to plan. The Dominion ships that weren't already destroyed were scattered and damaged. Their coordination was broken, their communications disrupted, and their morale shattered. "All squadrons prepare for final assault," she ordered. "Let's finish this." The human fleet converged on the remaining Dominion vessels like wolves closing in on wounded prey. Phase torpedoes flashed through space, materializing inside enemy ships and tearing them apart from within. The advanced Kael'thran technology that had conquered 47 species was helpless against weapons that existed partially outside normal reality. "Admiral." Zethkol's flagship shuddered as another coordinated attack struck its hull. Around him, his officers worked desperately to maintain basic life support. The once mighty Eternal Conquest was now a floating wreck. "Sir," Commander Vexthai said quietly, "perhaps we should consider surrender." Zethkol looked at him with 4 eyes full of shock. In 3,000 years of Dominion expansion, no admiral had ever spoken those words. But as he watched his fleet dying around him, he realized that surrender might be their only option. The humans had done the impossible. One fleet was defeating them, and the worst part was Zethkol suspected this was only the beginning. Admiral Zethkol's flagship drifted through space, its hull torn open by phase torpedo strikes. Around the dying vessel, the remnants of his once mighty fleet floated as wreckage. Of the 5,000 ships he had brought to crush humanity, fewer than 200 remained intact. Most of those were heavily damaged and barely functional. The human fleet surrounded the survivors in perfect formation, their weapons trained on the Kelthran vessels but holding fire. Through the quantum communication network, every human captain waited for Admiral Chen's orders. "This is Admiral Chen of Earth Fleet," came the transmission to the remaining Dominion ships. "You are defeated. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Admiral Zethkol stared at the tactical display that showed his humiliation. The species he had dismissed as primitive had just accomplished something no force in the galaxy had ever done. They had defeated a Dominion fleet in open combat. "Sir," Commander Vexatai said quietly. "Your orders?" Zethkol's mandibles clicked slowly as he considered his options. He could order his remaining ships to fight to the death, but it would be meaningless. The humans had already proven they could destroy his forces at will. All he would accomplish would be the complete annihilation of everyone under his command. "Power down weapons," he ordered finally. "Comply with their demands." The words felt like poison in his throat, but they were the only rational choice left. Within hours, human boarding parties had secured the surviving Dominion vessels. The aliens offered no resistance. Most seemed to be in shock that their supposedly invincible fleet had been so thoroughly defeated. Admiral Chen stood in the communication center of her flagship, preparing the most important transmission in human history. The message would be sent to every corner of Dominion space, carried by the fastest ships in the human fleet. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, "today marks the end of Kelthran domination. For 3,000 years, the Dominion has terrorized peaceful species across the outer spiral. They have conquered worlds, enslaved populations, and destroyed anyone who dared to resist them." She paused, looking at the tactical display that showed the scattered wreckage of the enemy fleet. "Today, that reign of terror ends. The Earth fleet has destroyed the Dominion expeditionary force sent to conquer our world. We did not achieve this victory through superior firepower or larger ships. We won through cooperation, innovation, and the refusal to accept that might makes right." The transmission continued for several minutes, explaining humanity's terms for the surviving Dominion forces and their offer of alliance to any species seeking freedom from Kelthran rule. But Admiral Chen made one decision that surprised even her own officers. She allowed 12 damaged Dominion ships to return to their territory, carrying news of the defeat back to the Kelthran homeworld. "Admiral," Captain Santos asked, "why let them go?" "We could have captured the entire force," Chen smiled grimly. "Because I want the Dominion leadership to know exactly what happened here. I want them to understand that humanity isn't going away, and we're not afraid of them anymore." The ships that escaped carried more than just news of defeat. They also carried detailed recordings of the battle, showing how human tactics had overcome superior numbers and technology. The footage would spread throughout Dominion space, letting every Kelthran citizen see their invincible fleet being torn apart by supposedly primitive aliens. Within weeks of the battle, the first alien delegations began arriving at Earth. The Vexhan Republic, which had been fighting a desperate resistance campaign against Dominion occupation for 50 years, sent representatives seeking military alliance. The Terran Collective, whose worlds had been reduced to slave labor camps, begged for Earth's help in liberating their people. Ambassador Mitchell, who had begun this crisis with her diplomatic mission to Vex High Prime, now found herself meeting with dozens of species who had suffered under Kelthran rule. Each delegation brought the same message. Humanity had given them hope. "How many species are we talking about?" President Williams asked during a cabinet meeting. 43 confirmed delegations so far," Mitchell replied. "Intelligence estimates there are at least 60 species that would join an anti-Dominion alliance if they believed victory was possible." Admiral Chen studied the star charts showing Dominion territory. "We've proven that their fleets can be defeated. But liberating 60 species across thousands of star systems will require more than one victory. What do you propose?" the president asked. "We build a coalition fleet," Chen answered. "Humans provide the tactics and technology. Our new allies provide ships, crews, and local knowledge. Together, we can free the entire outer spiral." The plan that emerged over the following months was ambitious beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. Earth shipyards expanded rapidly. now producing vessels designed for liberation campaigns rather than defensive battles. The phased torpedo technology was shared with allied species, along with quantum communication systems and tactical training. But the most important element of the new fleet wasn't technological. It was the command structure. Human officers worked alongside alien captains, sharing the quantum communication network that had made their victory possible. For the first time in galactic history, multiple species fought as a single coordinated force. Admiral Zethkol, held prisoner on Earth while his government decided his fate, watched these developments with growing amazement. The humans weren't content with their single victory. They were building something that could challenge the entire Dominion. "Your species has made a dangerous enemy," he warned Admiral Chen during one of their meetings. "The Dominion will not accept this defeat. They will send every ship they have to destroy you." "Let them come," Chen replied calmly. "We'll be ready." 6 months after the Battle of Earth, the first Liberation Fleet departed the solar system. 1,000 ships from 12 different species, all linked by quantum communicators and unified by human tactical doctrine. Their target was the Kethrin system, where 3 billion Terran civilians labored in Dominion mining facilities. The attack was devastating. Dominion forces, still operating under traditional tactics, were overwhelmed by the coordinated assault of the Liberation Fleet. Within days, the Kethrin system was free, and its population was celebrating their first taste of liberty in generations. More victories followed. The Liberation Fleet struck at military bases, industrial facilities, and slave camps throughout the outer regions of Dominion space. Each success brought new allies and weakened Kethrin control over their empire. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen stood in the expanded command center that now coordinated military operations across half the galaxy. Holographic displays showed Liberation fleets operating in dozens of star systems simultaneously. Each fleet used the same quantum-linked coordination that had made humanity's first victory possible. "Status report," she requested. 18 systems liberated in the past month," her aide reported. "Enemy resistance is weakening in the outer territories. However, intelligence indicates the Dominion is massing their remaining fleets near the core worlds." Chen nodded. She had expected this. Eventually, the Kelthrans would stop trying to defend their outer territories and concentrate on protecting their home systems. When that happened, the real war would begin. "Admiral," another aide approached. "We're receiving a transmission from the Dominion High Command. They're requesting a ceasefire and peace negotiations." Chen considered this for a moment. A year ago, the mighty Kelthran Dominion had threatened to exterminate humanity if they didn't surrender. Now they were asking for peace talks. "Tell them we'll consider negotiations," she replied finally, "but only after they release all slaves and withdraw from occupied territories. We're not stopping until every species in the galaxy is free to choose its own destiny." As the message was transmitted toward Dominion space, Chen looked at the star charts showing the expanding area of liberated worlds. Humanity had proven that one fleet could defeat the Dominion. Now they were proving that a coalition of free peoples could reshape the entire galaxy. The age of Kelthran tyranny was ending. In its place, something new was being born. A galactic community based on cooperation rather than conquest, where species worked together as equals rather than as masters and slaves. Admiral Zethkol's last words before the battle had been prophetic in a way he never intended. One fleet couldn't defeat them. But humanity had never planned to fight with just one fleet. They had built an alliance of liberation that would sweep across the stars, carrying freedom to every world that had suffered under Dominion rule. The galaxy would never be the same.